great to be back together for our podcast, The Disruptive Voices of the Pacific, because we are disrupting the silence around a lot of the issues around abuse, pornography. And right now we are doing a special series on sex, dating, relationships, and everything in between, because this is a big issue that we haven't done well at educating and helping our children with. And unfortunately, a lot of the bad education or the silence actually ends up in abusive relationships, sexually permissive relationships. So we're wanting to just have some really good conversations. And today with me again, I have Ritchie and Terry. And our episode today is a special one, especially for you young women out there. How should you expect a guy to treat you? So we're going to hear firsthand from our brothers. So welcome, Ritchie. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Pulvanaka. My name is Ritchie Yangomate. I'm from Vanuatu with maternal links to Coral Island. And I serve at Bethel Christian Family Center. And I've been married for 8 years. And it's just been an amazing journey.
And a beautiful wife. And you, Terry, who are you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Terry. I serve at C3 Church as a youth leader. I am currently studying at USP and also working with Inspire Pacific. I'm from the Solomon Islands.
Yes. You look similar but different. So it's great to have you here, Terry, because this podcast goes to other Pacific nations as well. That's why it's the Disruptive Voices of the Pacific. And the issues are pretty similar around the Pacific as well. But this topic of how should a young girl expect a man to treat her, or a young woman, let's say, we're not talking about girls. Now, I grew up in a great family, not a perfect family, but I've got an amazing dad who's been married to my mother for 55 years. And I've learned how a woman should be treated by how he has treated my mother. And then my brothers who have gotten married, I've watched them treat their wives with just such honour and dignity. Unfortunately, not all girls have that in their life. There's a lot of absent fathers, or there's fathers who are drunk or just weren't that role model to them. And then that makes things worse because girls are desperate for love. One question every girl is asking in life is, am I loved? And so she will just take the first guy who comes along. But they're not always treating her. And if you go back and listen to our other episodes, Ritchie's episode on the mistakes he made and just how he was after all these flings, and then our last episode on pornography, guys don't always have the best intentions. But eventually they, like both of you, break free from your pornography, you get help, you find other good men, and guys can mature and then be good. But it's unfortunate so many girls have got to go through so much pain and hurt and abuse along the way. So we're going to pretend that you're some brothers here. If you had, I don't know if you have a sister. I've met her. You have a sister? It's 2 sisters. So what would you be saying to your sisters how a guy should treat a girl? Like if you start dating around 16 or 17, how should that girl expect a guy to treat her? You start us off, Ritchie.
How does the girl want to be treated? For me, I've got 2 sisters who are older than me, and I've seen how they grew up and how my dad would normally treat them, and he would give them their personal space. And yes, he was strict, but he loved them. But I feel like for this time that we're in right now, if it's the girls just gotta know that they're worth, they are valuable. The girls just gotta know that what your worth is, and this is what we normally tell our youth girls at church: you are worth more than what any other guy would say. So don't fall for anything that every guy says. The girls are valuable. They gotta know what their value is. They've gotta know that when I first met my wife, the standard that she put for me, I felt so high, but I had to do it because I just wanted her, So I think for girls is that you just got to know that you are valuable, you are loved. You don't need to you don't need to get that from what every other guy says or whoever says it, but you are loved. you are valuable. And for something that's value, you gotta know that when you meet someone, that they just gotta treasure you. You know, it's not just what they say, it's what they do has to go in alignment with it. They've also got to respect you, respect your space, and just be able to just not say, yes, I hear you, but to really, really hear you,
Yeah.
What about you, Terry?
Cannot agree more. Yeah. I think the question is a really interesting one, and I think it prods to the idea of identity. And to answer that question properly, I think you should start with the basic understanding that you were created in the image. You were created in the likeness of God. And that's where you should start. And I believe the reason why you should start there is so that you can establish this truth that your worth and your value does not come from you. And it comes from God. And because it comes from God, it's not determined by what you do, what you have, or how people treat you. And one of the mistakes I think girls make, because when you get to this, when you get to a place where you're studying, and you ask this question, how should I be treated? I feel like you're 2-3 steps down a wrong path already. So go back to the basic truth about who you are, and that is you have been fearfully, wonderfully created in the image and likeness of God that is holy. And that is why you are valuable, that you have worth. It's not something that you work for. It's not something that you earn. And because it's not something that you work and earn, no one can give it to you because God gave it to you by creating you in His image and likeness. So starting with the basic truth that you were created fearfully, wonderfully, as David says in the Psalms, in the image and likeness of God. And anyone that comes in your life that does not acknowledge that God-given truth, you should be very, very careful about having them in your life.
Yes, absolutely. And I know for myself, having been taught about my value and worth, yes, I think the last guy who tried to inappropriately touch me got one big kick because my body is mine, not for nobody else. Anyway, we remained friends, but he never did it again. So we actually teach people how to treat us. If we put up with the rubbish, then they will continue. So we teach them. So let's talk about maybe, because there's some lies that we believe, especially as girls. We believe that if the guy just wants to be with me by myself 24/7, that is romantic. Is that healthy, Ritchie, for a guy just to want to isolate you and not hang out with your friends or your family and just be with you and you alone?
If I was a guy back then, I would say yes. But for a guy to really be with you, they've got to. For me personally, when I met my wife, when we started dating, I wanted to know her family. I wanted to know where she comes from. I wanted to know everything about her. Apart when I was in the flings, I just wanted her separately, private, because my intentions were wrong. So I would say, for a guy who just wants you away from everyone else, then that's a red flag.
So, yeah, and that's what you said is really important. When you met your wife, you wanted to meet her family because you were seeing her, and obviously you're a bit more mature by this stage, but you were really wanting a relationship with her. Whereas the ones who are trying to control you and pull you aside, it sounds like a relationship, but it's not.
That's right. That's right.
It's just, let's just get out of you whatever I can.
Yeah. And the most important thing is, I think red flags would normally come in every now and again. It would be maybe the way they speak, maybe the way they wouldn't show you exactly who they are, but little bits of their real self would normally pop up. So maybe there would be a pull or a pinch in between the relationship. So for girls, you gotta start seeing all these red flags that pops up. And if you see these red flags, if they are treating you like that in the relationship, then they're gonna do that more as time goes on, But the most important thing is is that when someone wants to take you aside, then there's something that they want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, and also it's a big red flag in abusive relationships as well. So again, Terry, sometimes us girls, we meet a guy, and these days so much of the relationship talk happens online. So if a guy is messaging me like 17,000 times during the day, wanting to know what I'm wearing, where I am, what I'm eating, is that again how a girl should be treated?
Just to answer that question about clothes, like when he starts messaging you about like the type of clothes that you're wearing, I think that is a symptom of a much deeper psychological issue. And when, like I mentioned it earlier, when someone is addicted to porn, it skews how they perceive women. So there could definitely be a porn problem involved there. So I would very much advise against continue to being, even in friendship, with a guy like that, especially if his conversations with you are overly sexual. So if a guy messages you and asking you about what type of clothes you're wearing, I can promise you it's only a matter of time before he asks for something more. And that is definitely unhealthy. To him, you're not a person. You're an object of his distorted desire for lust and everything in between.
Yeah, that's good. And so this question, and I do hear it from time to time, like I'm with a girl and she's like, oh, he's wanting to know where I am. And they've only been dating for like 2 weeks, you know. Is that something that, I mean, it depends if they're going to meet up, but does he need to know all this stuff? Like, where should the boundaries? I can understand if you're married, where are you? But sometimes they get really possessive. Is that a problem?
That is definitely a problem. When you're in a relationship, I feel like a relationship, there's freedom to be who you are. It's freedom for you to do the things that you want. And for the person that comes into the relationship, they would want to just, you know, enjoy the things that you do, and at the same time be able to, that you're able to freely express yourself and things like that. When the relationship becomes toxic, when the relationship starts to have like boundaries, why are you doing this? Where are you going? When the relationship starts to become possessive, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when I feel like people who are not ready to be in a relationship and they just jump quickly into it, they get hurt. And sometimes some relationships become possessive because of the past relationship that they've been through. You know, and all of a sudden they start to become possessive, maybe because they've had a bad experience. And a lot of other relationships, we tend to just dictate it from the past relationships. And because of what has happened, we feel like it's going to happen again. So I feel like sometimes they become so possessive over that.
Yeah. And I need to say that girls can become very possessive and weird as well. But this is where we're talking about the boys' behaviour this time, but girls, we do it as well. So again, you know, if a guy wants something and a girl says, hey, no, you know, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go there, and he gets angry, is that normal as well?
We hardly see that. Like, for what I'm saying is, we hardly see. A lot of the times, the other person's always just giving in to whoever is the dominant one in the relationship. When people's got to realize, when you're coming into the relationship, both people, it has to profit from that relationship and not just the other person. And also the other thing is, when the relationship is healthy, both people gain, both people grow, and the relationship is healthy because you're happy, both of you guys are happy, and even the families around the relationship would be able to see and have an input into it. Sometimes people hide the relationship because they themselves already know that the relationship is not healthy. You know? So from my perspective, if the relationship is healthy, both people will be benefiting from it. And at the same time, like my past relationships, I would normally hide it. But when I met my wife, I started to introduce her to everyone else. My friends, my families, even my parents, like they were the first ones to know that I had asked her out.
Mm-hmm.
And in my past relationships, I wouldn't tell anyone. Like I just hide it. Because parts and partial one was deep down inside, I knew that I wasn't even ready to be in a relationship, but I've already jumped into it, you know.
Mm.
And secondly, I knew that it was an unhealthy one also, you know. And yet I still got hurt from it. The other girl got hurt from it, you know. But the relationship where it's healthy, both people are benefiting from it, and even people around it are able to also input and help out.
Yeah, and both have an equal voice and listen and are heard. Let's have it, because quite often some of our dating relationships, you're dating for 2 seconds and the next thing you're holding hands and then you're kissing and the engine is often racing. And I think, again, and I'm just talking about the girls, they just think, well, I've got to give the guy what he wants, otherwise I'm going to lose him. So if you don't want to go there yet as a girl, how do you slow that engine down, Terry? What do you do? What would you encourage your sister to say to her boyfriend?
So I'm speaking as a believer. So I would say to my sisters, and I've told them this, that if you in a relationship with someone and that person is insisting on sex, that person does not have the same value as you, because you're a believer, you're a Christian, and that person must respect that as well.
Mm.
So if a guy comes up to you and goes, he wants to do the deed with you, just say no. And to your question earlier, like if he does not respect your no, he does not respect you.
Mm. Yeah.
That's as plainly as I could put it. If he does not respect your no, he does not respect you. So having good boundaries in place and get other people, especially trusted family members, your parents, trusted brothers and sisters in the church, get them involved in the relationship. Let them speak into your life, because in the multitude of counselors there is wisdom.
So let's wind it back, though, because you've jumped right into bed. But if it's the second date and he's wanting to kiss her and she's not ready, you know, because there's no scripture verse against that one.
I would strongly advise against that. Like if he started getting physical with you, let's say second date, and you've known each other for a week or two, that is a red flag. It could mean that he wants something more than just a relationship. And he's not in it because of you as a person. He's in it to satisfy a desire, lust. I would just put it plainly like that.
Should she? I was listening to a podcast recently where the man asked the woman, may I hold your hand? They'd been dating for several months, but he was like ready to do something out of purity. But he said, can I hold your hand? And she actually said no, because she wasn't ready. But is that type of behaviour, I mean, is that just out the window now? Or can young women expect good young men to, or should they expect men to ask rather than just take?
I definitely they should. I think that they should ask the men. I used to love I think it's because of the social media that we have. It's all these movies that's coming and it's all this soap operas. There was this thing on TikTok where the guys are all lined up and they all had balloons, and the girl would walk into the room and all of a sudden they'd look, and if they didn't like it, they'd just pop it, you know? And I feel like everything that people are starting to watch and all the things that's coming out on media is starting to affect how relationships are going. And all of a sudden we've lost the real reason why relationships were formed. And it's something that God had intended right from the beginning. But because of all these TV shows that's coming up, there's this Love at First Sight TV shows, there's all these bachelorettes, and all of a sudden we start to think that, oh, that's how the relationship's got to be like, that's how it's got to be like, and it's going to be good. Where can I say that that's that's all in the movies, and it's not real, you know. And I feel like we've got to go back to maybe starting to really think about what a real relationship is like, you know, and how does that look like? And we've got to start. I feel like as leaders and as men, we've got to start painting what that picture's got to be like. And I love the fact that we're able to sit like this, and it'd be awesome to have other men that are here that will be able to start voicing out, you know, this is what relationships have to be like. And women has to be the one that there has to be someone in the relationship that has to say no. And no, saying no is not bad at all.
Yeah. Saying
no is not bad at all. Because when you say no, you know that you are worth it. And you've got to make the guy run for it, you know? Maybe on the 15th date or whatever it is, you know? Get him to pay for your meals. Get him
First date.
get him to come and meet your family. You know? If he's got the guts, then he won't message you. Anyone who messages you on Facebook and asks you out on Facebook is not a guy. That's a pervert. So get away from that, you know, because a real guy will definitely come to you, not ask you out first, but wanting to know you first, you know, and that's it.
We'll be friends, hey? So Terry, we know you're currently single, which is awesome. Nothing wrong with being single. But, you know, if say you meet that special one next week, how would you treat a woman? How do you expect that you'd be treating her?
So again, for me, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and this is very, very important to me. So the standard of scripture is you treat one another with love and with respect. And this commandment is not just for dating relationships. It's how you're supposed to treat human beings. We are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So for me, if I were to meet someone, scripture will and must guide my interactions with them. And that is to treat them with respect, treat them with honor, treat them with love. And like Pastor Ritchie alluded to earlier, just Ritchie. Respect them. Respect when they say yes, respect when they say no. So to answer your question again, treat them as Jesus would have me, as Jesus would want me to treat them. And that is with love and with respect.
You made a brilliant comment there because, again, I think sometimes we see someone, we're attracted to their looks and we haven't even looked at their behaviour. And quite often I tell girls, watch him for 6 months. See, because they can easily sweet talk you and fool you, right. But then over here they're treating everyone else like pieces of crap or whatever. So how they treat other people, first of all, how they treat everyone, from the rich to the poor to the people on the street to the pastors, so important, hey? That's brilliant. Any last final comments before we wrap up this episode? We are going to do another episode on the purpose of dating and how to be a bit more intentional, because dating is far more than just hanging out, movies, kissing, sex. It's got to be going somewhere. So any final words from you, Terry?
I think for me, to my sisters out there, before you consider dating, or even if you're in a dating relationship and that relationship does not reflect God, does not reflect Jesus, I think that's a really big red flag. So be grounded in the scriptures, be grounded in the gospel, and prioritize your faith first before you prioritize anything else. Yeah, that would be my advice. Encouragement.
So important. Know who you are.
My advice to even if to the guys, if you're watching right now, can I say this? Live life. Just enjoy it. When the right time comes, and it will come. But right now, because the moment you get into a relationship, sometimes you will get hurt in the process. And the moment you get hurt, all your other relationships gets affected. And I'm speaking from experiences. So can I say this? Just live life. Enjoy it. Make friends. And then along the line, somehow it will somehow just happen, But for now, just don't waste time staying up late and texting and all these other jibber jabbers, but just really enjoy life. Enjoy what God's got in store for you.
Yeah, I think that's important. And for the girls out there, find a guy who is going somewhere in his life. You don't want to be with a deadbeat who is on TikTok and Facebook all day, but you want a guy with a bit of purpose. And you want to be living life with purpose too. So thank you again, Terry and Ritchie. It's been a great conversation, and we're going to continue to have these conversations. So we'll be back with you again. Thanks for joining us.